Should have yelled, you need some Jesus.
Yes, you do need some Jesus.
You need some Jesus.
You do need some Jesus.
Serious Jesus.
But let's not alienate our secular brothers and sisters.
So you don't shoot.
Let's not alienate our secular brothers and sisters. Martial art. What is a martial art? Martial means war. Art means artistic. The art of war. Or does it mean an art derived from war? That's the question. MMA people feel like traditional people are all art and no martial. Did I say that right? MMA people feel that traditional people are all art and no martial. And I think the traditional people feel that MMA is all martial and no art. Does that mean that we should never even consider, if you're a traditional martial artist, never, ever, if you had the opportunity to train? Now, I mean, if you don't want to get in the cage, hey, that's fine. Like I said, nobody puts a gun to their head to get in there. But if you had a chance to train in that format, you should not. I think that would be a mistake. I think if you ever had the opportunity to train in that format, I haven't had the opportunity to train in that exact format. I can't afford the lessons that are near me. They're just too expensive. They are too expensive. And it's not like there are less expensive options available to me that I can explore, and I've explored them, and I've learned a heck of a lot, and I've had a ball doing that. But you know what I've seen some MMA people do? They've come back and peeked their head into the traditional styles. Hey man, what are you doing in this? Yeah man, just want to see where it come from, Hey, it's good. It's all good. Is the problem with the mixed martial arts, or is the problem just with the ground and pound? It seems like if the problem is really just with the ground and pound, then send Dana White a whole bunch of emails and letters and say, "Dear Mr. White," I know it's funny, a black guy saying "Dear Mr. White." I know people won't have a field day with that, but it doesn't meant to be racial. "Dear Mr. White, why don't you eliminate the ground and pound? Sincerely, whatever your name is." Why don't you lobby for that? Because you're concerned about the fighter's safety. Instead of bashing the whole thing away. That's what you should do. There are people feeding their families with this stuff. There's a whole economy around it. If you ever watch Black Belt TV, if you ask me, Black Belt TV is there to promote mixed martial arts. When I finally got a subscription to Black Belt TV, I thought I was going to see everything. I thought I was going to see some beautiful kung fu forms. I see some kung fu movies. All I see are kung fu movies, models, and then cage fighting. This year's the Olympics. You got judo in the Olympics. You got taekwondo in the Olympics. Shouldn't I be able to watch those on Black Belt TV? I ain't seen anything in the programming yet where they said they're going to show any of the things that are in the Olympics. Isn't there Olympic boxing? There's Olympic boxing, right? There's Olympic wrestling. I should be able to see all that on Black Belt TV, and it's not there. See, when you come off, both sides, you got to realize something. You got to realize that I know you're mad at the other side. You're mad at the other side. You got your legitimate gripes at the other side. But both sides are not just full of a bunch of liars. And both sides are not just full of people that are evil and messed up. Now, if you think they messed up, You feel to think they messed up, but they're not really messed up. Sometimes they just don't know any better. So you might as well waste your breath. You're not going to convince somebody who thinks that mixed martial arts, which is in their opinion, is the absolute truth. You're not going to get them to believe you that while what they're doing is very effective, there are techniques and things out there that you can't do in that competition format because they kill people, and that's what you know how to do. They're not going to believe you. I believe you, but they're not going to believe you. MMA guys, you're not going to convince traditionalists that what you're doing is the most effective thing. It's got the best results. You're not going to convince them of that. You're not going to convince them that if what they're doing is really working or they really have some skill, they should be able to demonstrate it under that type of pressure. You're not going to be able to get them. You're not going to get them to do it. But if there's one thing the hoopla could do, is if everybody could lobby behind the safety of the fighters. If you can lobby behind the safety of the fighters and say, why don't we eliminate ground and pound? I think that might be doable. And that might draw more people. Eliminate ground and pound. Do we need ground and pound? What do you think, person that's not on camera?
No. It's not a real fight. It's not that serious. Not like it's combat. And real fighting is, if you get fighting combat, it's different. If you absolutely have to do that in a fight because the person's trying to kill you, that's different. But you don't have to do that in competition. That's just ridiculous. And it's just, people like to see bloodshed because human beings are just sick. That's just how it is.
I'm glad you mentioned that word. That's what I was searching for. Oh, mixed martial arts people. A mixed martial arts match is not combat. It's not combat. It's not combat. There are no referees in combat. It's not combat. That doesn't mean it's any less worthy of respect. It's not combat. I'm glad it's not combat. You know why I'm glad it's not combat? Because when my cousin went in there, I wouldn't want him to go to combat. I've known people that have been to combat. You don't want anyone that you care about to go to combat. You don't want them, you don't want to hug them and just be hugging them because you're glad they didn't step on a grenade or something. That's combat. Combat has missiles, has 10-year-olds with grenades taped to them like in the Vietnam War that could blow up. That's combat. It's not combat. Just because it's not combat doesn't mean that it doesn't take any skill to do it. But it's not combat. I'm sorry, it's not combat. Oh, and don't get me started on some of the people that train everybody for combat and their things. They're teaching people tactics and approaches for normal self-defense situations where they can end up killing somebody. They don't teach them a degree of force. Now, some of them do. I've seen on some of these people's literature and websites, they teach continuum of force. That's fine. But to try to train people to be pit bulls, to go from 0 to 100 with nothing in between, that's not cool. So before I run out, let's say this. How about we lobby to eliminate ground and pound to make MMA safe for the fighters? I think that's something that both sides can unite on, and let's do it.